Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested.
And it's Jeremy from Tested.
We got a bonus episode of projections for you this week because there's more hardware to talk about.
Hardware.
And this week, earlier, we reviewed the Oculus Go standalone VR headset, mobile VR. And at the same week, also coming out today is Lenovo's Mirage Solo, which works with Google Daydream VR.
They're both self-contained all-in-one VR headsets, something that we really haven't seen before.
Exactly. We've seen a lot of desktop-bound headsets, desktop-tethered headsets, which come from Windows and also Oculus, Facebook, and PSVR, of course.
Or mobile headsets that use a phone, which is not a good experience, right? You have to open it up, put your phone in there. It's something that was never made to be a VR headset. Now you can buy these all-in-one devices that are more simple. Like you put them on and you're just in VR, easy, and it's easy to travel with, easy to share.
Now, there's going to be talk about the hardware, the comparison between these two headsets, and also the software differences, because they run on fundamentally different VR platforms.
Yep.
Let's talk about the hardware first, because that's, I think, the most interesting thing about this headset.
Yeah.
It is, like you said, standalone VR, very comparable in terms of visual specs as the Oculus Go, 2560 by 1440 single LCD display. Now, both the Go and this Mirage Solo have LCD displays, but the LCD display here runs at 75 hertz.
All the time.
All the time as a minimum, as opposed to the 60 or 72 hertz, and which enables it to be a little smoother. To get those frame rates, it also has a more powerful processor. It runs on a Snapdragon 835, which is their Qualcomm made for VR processor. A little more power efficient. It's actually a lower process die, smaller die, so it uses less power while it can be more powerful. And it also has a different tracking system.
I think you buried the lead.
Yeah, I know.
That's what this is all about. And I think it uses all that new processing, that extra power, in order to power this inside-out tracking that it has.
Right.
So it actually has two cameras on the front that are used for a 6 degree of freedom inside-out tracking solution. Now that's just for the headset, mind you. The controller, which I'm sure we'll get into, is still a 3DoF headset similar to what's on the Go or what you have on Daydream, essentially. But this 6DoF experience, the tracking, I'd say, like, when it's put to use, it's great. It works really well. You can move the headset up against the floor, the ceiling. You can move around. It doesn't have to learn environments. It just, you put it on and it works. You can move your head left and right, forward and back. That's all reflected in virtual reality, which lends itself to comfort.
Right, these lateral movements that your body naturally wants to make. Lenovo has a lot of experience with inside-out tracking. They were one of the first to work with Google Tango, which was their phone-based AR with world mapping. Of course, they've worked with Microsoft with that mixed reality headset. This doesn't use that same technology, the same lenses as the Microsoft headset. It's more akin to the Tango AR stuff, but they're essentially global shutter, black and white images. This is not a pass-through camera like you'd see on the HTC Vive.
You only know that because you asked them what the kind of cameras it is. It's not meant to be seen.
Right. But at a very high refresh rate, it tracks the world and can keep track of things like walls, tables, and even recognize moving objects like people and know that's not a part of the static world.
Right.
And
I think most importantly, it lends itself to comfort.
Yeah.
It unfortunately does not give you any kind of augmented reality of what the world is around you. Like there's not even a sense of chaperone, which we're familiar from the desktop side, where you tell it where the walls are. While it could certainly do that, I think it's probably capable of that because it's tracking the world. They don't unlock that for users yet, or at least developers haven't yet.
The 6DoF is only so that what it's showing you in your head is lateral movement, but it's not going to show you anything about the outside world, which I wish I did, because comfort is an important thing, and wearing this headset, even for a seated experience, watching video, your head's going to bob a little bit, it's going to move. It's super comfortable for that. But if I'm standing up and there's a table here, it doesn't tell you there's a table there.
No,
you can still run into it.
It would be nice if it faded it in once you got close to it. Same with the walls. If it just gave you a sense of what you were about to hit. It really just gives you a circle, basically a sphere, I suppose, around the headset where you establish where your center is. and then you have that sphere to move inside of. And if you go towards the edge of that, the world starts to fade out. But it has nothing to do with the environment. It's just that distance from the headset.
That is an artificial limitation. Let's be clear about that. This is purely a software thing that Google has
Right.
put onto their Daydream with 6 degrees of freedom. So when we thought we would get this headset, we want to put it on and open up game and just start walking around, right? Now you can play games where you can freely walk around your room.
Yeah.
We can get into a basketball court or like a gymnasium, just run around and
Right.
have our visuals tracked. That's not going to be possible with this, at least not right now, because it's all software gated. Like you said, once you move beyond that sphere, which is really about arm's width, like
Right.
this far apart, the world fades to black.
That's right. And they told us, they said that we could actually walk down a hallway with this on. The tracking itself, the hardware is robust. It's great. But they're locking it down into software standpoint. And the reason is they want to be compatible with all the Daydream software that's out there that they've been developing for the past year or so.
Sure,
Where,
yeah.
You know, all they have to do is turn on head tracking and suddenly everything works. And in fact, developers, they told us they don't even have to recompile their apps. They just have to change a line in a text file that's associated with their package that they submit to Google.
Now, most of the apps we've used with Daydream on this headset are just ports of the existing Daydream apps, games and experiences that were meant for 3 degree of freedom rotational movement.
Yep.
You know, so even if there is like an action game, you're throwing snowballs at someone, it's not just like a switch that's flipped on where now you can run across, you know, and
No.
to the other side of the room. You're just going to get extra comfort.
And there's not a single app that's developed exclusively for this that offers any kind of room scale,
Yeah.
even within that sphere. Like there's nothing where you're supposed to stand up and walk around and look down at the ground and move around.
Yeah.
It's all just a little bit of added comfort. Now, I don't want to undersell that because I do think that some people need that added comfort. Some people, they put on a Gear VR or even the Oculus Go, and once they move their head around and it's not reflected in virtual reality, they just get that nausea. Some people, they're going to need this added feature. But I want to be clear, if you're looking for a room scale HTC Vive kind of experience for mobile, this is not there yet.
And part of that is because they want to piggyback on the existing apps that have been made
Right.
for Daydream on the mobile side. And that's also probably the same reason why this controller isn't a 6 degree of freedom track controller. You know, there are no IR lights on this. The camera doesn't see this. All it does is take in that rotational movement, the accelerometer and gyro movement on here to point at things. It's simply just a laser pointer.
We have Daydream to thank for mobile having a handheld controller because Gear VR didn't at first. They relied on gamepad, and then Daydream came along, introduced that. Gear VR played catch up soon after and added their own track controller, which the Go inherited.
Yep.
But Gear VR did do a smart thing and add a third button, right? A trigger on the front,
Yeah.
which is so useful in games.
Yeah, and this just not having that trigger, I miss that a
Yeah,
little bit. It does
me
have a
too.
touchpad, and it has your standard back button and kind of home button, your options button. It has volume controls on the side. You know, it's light, it's easy to use, but it's not as functional as if it had a trigger or if it had better tracking on this thing. Ergonomically, also, it's a little bit, I would say there's a trade-off. It's definitely a rigid head strap, so it can be more
Right.
comfortable over longer periods of time.
Kind of similar to the PSVR headset.
A little bit, yeah. The points in which it's in contact with you, your top of your forehead and also the back of your head, and it has this dial here to lock that into your head. And there's also a way for you to push a button underneath the headset to move it further away from your eyes as well. Also, like
Right.
PSVR.
But not so far. I think PSVR, you move it so far out, you can actually see around a little bit.
Yeah.
This is really meant for glasses. I think it's just meant to move it out just, gosh, what, half an inch or so, just so you have enough room for your lenses.
Remember that LG prototype Steam VR headset that had the ability to flip up
Right.
the optics? I wish this had that.
I actually prefer this head strap to the Go, as I mentioned in that review. I wish that was rigid. I think that that's one of the costs of having a $200 price point. This one, at $400, they had some more money to spare. And I prefer this rigid head strap. Even though the headset, as we weighed, we found that it weighs almost 40% more.
Yeah, it's
than the
200
Oculus
grams
Go.
more. There's about 465 grams and about 660 grams. Also, with the rigid head strap, you can't as easily lean back onto a couch.
If you were to lean back, you'd have that right there. But
Yeah.
whatever, you put a cushion there. I actually prefer the rigid head strap. I'm a proponent of it. I think it's much more comfortable. It puts more of the weight around your skull rather than on your nose and your cheekbones.
There is a microphone built into it as well for any of the potential social apps that's going to come out for this, but there's no built-in speakers or headphones.
Oh my gosh, once you get that from the Go,
I know.
and Daydream would have had that from the phone speaker. They know that people were using that. I think that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, especially if they're charging, again, $400 for this. And I think that really that's the big difference. This is twice as expensive as the Oculus Go. And yes, theoretically, the technology there is better, right? It's a faster processor, there's more RAM, there's storage, there's expandable memory. You can drop in a memory card with their media files and watch movies all day long.
There's fixed off tracking.
There's fixed off tracking, but so much of that is limited by the Daydream platform and what the things that Google has put on to limit that fixed off tracking.
You know what, and we haven't really mentioned the fact that almost nothing supports fixed off yet.
Right.
Most of the library that's out there, it hasn't been converted over yet, even though it's supposedly very easy to do. There's a small handful of apps that support the fixed off, and when you experience that, when you join one of those apps, I don't know, like the snowball throwing app or the fishing app, you dive in there and you do this, you're like, oh, that feels good. That's a nice sensation. But almost nothing supports it yet. Even the Netflix app doesn't support it yet. Most of the major experiences that you're probably using just haven't been ported yet. So if anything, I don't think there's a mad rush to pick this up because you're not going to be able to take advantage of the hardware until the software developers go ahead and enable support in their apps.
In terms of how these affect, the VR community as a whole, Oculus Go clearly was trying to solve a chicken and egg problem, put a low-cost headset out into the market and get people to use it so developers will have an incentive to start making content for this, and they also pay money to developers to bootstrap that ecosystem. Here, you have fewer apps or fewer experiences, and the headset is prohibitively expensive, I think, to really make that ecosystem viable.
I wonder, at some point, Oculus is going to have their competitor to this with handheld tracked controllers as well. I don't know how much that's going to cost. What is prohibitive? I honestly think VR headsets in general are expensive toys right now that are rapidly evolving. So anybody that dives in is going to be an early adopter, probably acknowledging that and happy to be that and maybe upgrade next year. Who knows how much is too much? I don't know if $400 crosses that line, if $200 does.
I don't think $400 would be too much if it had the software to back it up. If it wasn't as limiting as this ended up being, both in terms of the experiences and also the controller. The controller was tracked, you got hand presence, and there were great launch apps, and everything supported fixed off, not only for comfort, but for type of experiences. I would spend $400 on that. But right now, that's not there at all. It goes to show, just because you have a checkbox for a feature doesn't mean that it's immediately going to be worth it.
Well, it just needs the developer support right now. I think that fixed off tracking is necessary for some people. I know some people put on the Go, and as soon as they move their head and that's not reflected, oh, that's it. I'm going to be sick for the next half hour. They take it off. So this serves that audience. Now it's just a matter of getting those developers on board to support it.
We also want to mention that Lenovo is launching, along with this Mirage Solo, a camera, the VR 180. It allows you to shoot 180-degree stereoscopic photos and video. We do have that, and we'll be reviewing that in the near future. Before we let you guys go, I want to let you know there's a new game out in the Oculus Store and the Steam VR Store. We've been waiting for this for a long time. It's Beat Saber.
It's Beat Saber by Hyperbolic Magnetism. They've been traditionally a mobile app developer. This is their first VR title, and it's gotten its share of hype on Reddit and social media, just because it's basically Jedis playing a rhythm action game.
It's a rhythm action game with laser swords.
Right.
So this works on the Rift, it works on the Vive. You need track controllers for it. You're holding a red lightsaber, laser sword, a blue laser sword. Music's playing, one of 10 songs. Cubes are coming at you, and you gotta hit the cubes according to the color and the beat.
It's kind of an interesting problem because traditionally rhythm action games like this, ever since like Parappa the Rapper, right? That was like the one that introduced this genre. All the way through Rock Band, there's always been a moment in time where you're supposed to hit a button, whether it's a guitar switch or it's a drum head or a keyboard or a gamepad.
Audio surf, keyboard.
Exactly. Like there's always a moment when you have to hit a button. And you can't do that in VR because the thing that's tracked is moving itself and the object is moving. Plus now in Beat Saber you have a laser sword where you're going to hit on that entire length of the sword. So they don't actually give you points for accuracy. They just give you points to whether or not you hit it at all, which I think is fascinating. It's an interesting way to solve that problem. They also give you bonus points if you hit it fast and hit it hard, which I didn't even realize until we started playing it and the points were flying out of the little boxes. And the harder that I hit it, the higher the points were.
I mean, as a rhythm game, their goal is to make it a game, first of all, is to give you something to look at. You need to match up your body and your arm movements to something. And then two, get you into the music. And I think this game succeeds at that because you're really into the music.
Totally.
Your actions, you're moving your whole body when you're doing these swings, and you really feel tied into the song and how they've programmed these cubes that fly at you with the high points and the beat drops of the songs.
Right, more so than one of the instrument rhythm action games. It's more like a Dance Dance Revolution experience where you're really kind of dancing to the music and you're swinging your arms.
Very physical.
And there's different modes, like there's the standard mode you mentioned where the blocks come in 2 different colors and they have arrows on them and you have to swing in the direction of the arrow. But there's also no arrow mode. And I was surprised to find that all the boxes, they come in 2 colors again, but they're just single dots, but they're not the same patterns of boxes. There's whole different levels that they've designed for that mode, and it involves a lot more crossing your arms over.
Right, the colors will change sides.
Right, and I actually like that mode the most. I'm also I was the top in the world in that mode. I was also apparently the only one who had tried it when I tried this out. But it was a lot of fun because you don't have to worry so much about the arrows. You're just looking at the colors.
There are 10 songs to this game. These are original tracks that they've composed. They're all very catchy, like very electronic songs. Still a good range, I think. They don't all sound the same.
It's all very Euro, techno to some degree. There's one hip hop kind of song, but they're also all original songs. They're songs that I think they've probably worked with artists to produce. They're not tracks you've recognized from the radio.
And so this isn't a game where you can import your own library and have it algorithmically program the level for you. And I
like that.
I do. I like that too. I like that they've curated the experience, and there are difficulty levels: easy, medium, hard, expert, and it gets really hard. I failed in hard mode several times.
Okay, no, I can't even get through 10 seconds of expert. It's crazy, and the game is in early access right now. We should say it's not finished. I think they probably need to add some onboarding stuff for the expert levels, slow it down, let you get through it without failing, just to learn the things. Because at that level, it really is learning the choreography. And as you see, like these expert Dance Dance Revolution players, like they just know them. That's what they want you to do on expert mode, is learn the moves.
I don't think, no VR game I think has a bigger gulf between how awesome it makes you feel and how dorky you actually look.
Hey, can't worry about that.
It.
No, modesty has to go out the window.
That's good, because it makes you feel awesome.
Totally.
I got really into it.
You get that music pumping in your head, and you're smashing those blocks, and I was into it too. In fact, I hit stuff in my room. This is another one of those games, like Echo Arena, where you're going to see people posting images on Reddit, like another casualty. I smashed my desk lamp. I mean, I was into it. Again, the fact that they get you to swing harder, the more points you get, I'm hitting things probably too hard on my desk than I would like to.
Yeah, so it's in early access right now. It's $20. I think it's totally worth it, worth checking out. Hopefully developers will get to add new songs in the future, more levels. I'd love to see more from this. What a great execution of a stroke of genius idea.
I think this is definitely my favorite rhythm action game so far. There's the one you mentioned, like audio, where you're blocking the things with the shields. There's another one where you're punching the things. This just feels good. The visuals go from solid black to solid blue, and it's just like this really ambient environment, and it's very well done.
Beat Saber, check it out. And thank you guys for checking out this video as well. If you have questions about either of these headsets, post them in the comments, and we'll do our best to answer them as soon as possible. But until next time, we'll see you in the metaverse.
Bye.